Hello and welcome to Brzydka Pravda, The Ugly Truth, a new podcast about nothing and about everything. A podcast about everyday conversations, the type of conversation you would have with your friends, colleagues, acquaintances, family, romantic partners, or maybe just a random person you met at the bar. A podcast about the truth, not very sweet, but the truth nevertheless. Societal, cultural, economic, maybe political, I don't know. But the ugly truth. But the type of conversations we need to have more in our lives. I can guarantee you something about this podcast. It will make you laugh. It will entertain you. It will make you wonder and think. And who knows? It may make you cry at times. I can't guarantee you. And of course, it's not just going to be me blah, 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 blahing all the time, though, like some episodes, like this first episode, that is the case. In some episodes, we will have expert guests, like in the next episode, which I will introduce towards the end of this video. So, a little bit about the podcast. This podcast is filmed in Poland as I live here. And I thought, why not make the first episode about Poland? I try to keep it short. What about Poland? What am I doing in Poland? I mean, look at me. I'm not Polish. I don't look Polish. Nie jestem Polakiem, as they say here. Good question. What do you think when you think of Poland? 11 years ago, I got a summer internship to come to Poland just after graduation from university. You know, everybody was becoming an accountant and starting to work in some bank in a cubicle. That lifestyle sounded disgusting to me. And I thought, wow, I'm too young for this shit. And I really want to explore something different. So I came here as an English teacher for 2 months. I tell you something. I arrived at the airport, and before I was coming, my friends and family even, they're saying, Poland, are you crazy? Who goes to Poland? Isn't it, some communist country, really poor? Everybody is racist, blah, blah, blah. But I've always been a bit of a shithead, and I wanted to try the unexpected. I was maybe a little bit concerned, but I backed myself. And honestly, that was the greatest decision I've ever made. But the first day was not without drama. I remember I arrived at the Chopin Airport in Warsaw, and I met my internship program manager, Anya, and we were on the bus 175 to go to the center of Warsaw. And she asked me, Seth, how do you feel that you're in Poland? Very honestly, I responded, I'm very happy because I've always dreamt of living in Eastern Europe. Big mistake. She was so angry. She started yelling at me at the bus, great first impression bus, that Poland is not Eastern Europe. Poland is Central Europe. Eastern Europe is shithole like Moldova or Romania or, those places. And that was the first lesson I learned in Poland, that Polish people hate being called Eastern Europe. And they hate, every time you mention their communist history, difficult history. So that was an interesting time. And I remember at the time, Poland was so cheap. You go to the bar and a beer was less than $1. A shot was probably like 70 cents. It reminded me of the movie Eurotrip back in 2006 when they were in Bratislava and, they could live this really lavish lifestyle. But also Poland of 11 years ago is quite different to this Poland of today. 11 years ago, when I first came here, many people my age were envious of me living in Canada. They were dreaming of moving to Canada, moving to the UK, Germany, maybe not so much France, but it's still France. And of course, United States. So Poles love America. You need to understand this. There was a survey by Ipsos Polling Center. What do you think about America? Do you have a favorable view of America or unfavorable view of America? Americans themselves, only 78% of them said they have a favorable view of their own country. 7-8. Whereas Poles, 93% of them, they said they have a favorable view of the US. So America is more popular in Poland than it is in actual America. And so, of course, they wanted to move there because at the time, still Poland, the opportunities were not plenty, and there was still some sort of an aura about living in the West. Well, 11 years later, and things are very different. Almost no Polish person, Gen Z or millennial I meet, wants to leave their own country anymore. Poland is actually an economic miracle in a way. It has almost doubled economic growth in terms of GDP, and GDP per capita has now surpassed, I think it's now matching Italy and Spain, which is crazy when considering where they were all 20 years ago. And it's super safe. It's super safe. And of course, with a lot of Western countries falling into chaos in one way or another, the prospect of living and being in Poland appeals to the native Poles. And also, the country is seeing a bit of a reverse brain drain. So, a lot of people many years ago, last 2 decades, left the country or 3 decades, wishing for greener pastures. But now Poland is in a position that they are coming back to Poland. So, it's a reverse brain. So, it's a very interesting situation what's happening. Almost nobody dreams of going to the UK anymore, or Germany for that matter, or France. Canada, of course, I'm trying to notify them about what's actually happening. They're getting US still have some sort of an aura because it's the United States, America, baby, but of course, nowhere near as before. And so Poland, I can tell you 100% it's not a communist country. Actually, communism is banned in this country because these people have trauma of the bread lines and, the empty grocery stores and, all this spying government on. So they are very, very serious about that. And that's something I admire. So that means they're quite resilient people. And also a little thing about Polish history, and maybe that's why it creates the Polish character, is that Poland is very unlucky geographic. It's a very flat country, except the southern part near the border of Zakopane with Krakow. So it's very easy to invade. And of course, it has Germans in the left side. And of course, it used to have Russia on the right side, but now has Belarus and Ukraine. So overall, throughout its history, because of its very flat terrain, Poland has been invaded many, many, many times by Germans, by Russians, by the Ottoman Empire, and even bloody by Sweden. Do you know how bad you must be to be invaded by Sweden? But Poland was invaded by Sweden, in fact. So that's what, makes this Poland really, really alert about this whole foreign threats and, foreigners, that's why it's now spending 4% of its GDP on defense, actually, one of the highest in NATO. So let's talk a little bit about the Polish mentality. Also about Poland is, their food is too much potatoes, in my opinion. Not the biggest fan of pierogi, but it could be very tasty. And also the people. So on paper, Poland is one of the most religious countries in Europe. The Pope was Polish for 25 years, Jan Paul II, or as they say here, Jana Pawła II. And he is quite a saint here. He's probably the most famous Pole ever. And, he survived an assassination attempt in 1981, and then he died in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. So he is, their god, and every city has a couple of streets at least named after him. But also, the new generation of Poles, the younger millennials and the Gen Z, are definitely nowhere near as religious as their parents or grandparents were. And so you can see this kind of shift and divide in the society a little bit between the older generation and the younger generation. I think the church attendance is falling among the young generation. But also, it's still, they had a very conservative government, Poland, here for 8 years, and it just changed last year, back in October. So it's very interesting to see what happens going forward. But I think with everything that's happening in the rest of the world, especially in the Western world, my opinion is that if Poland avoids getting dragged in a in a war or military conflict, and with the current economic progress that it's making, it could put, and of course military uh, progress, it could be a European superpower within the next decade. Really, I stand by it. But unfortunately, just like any other country, the smartest people in Poland don't end up in as their politicians. So you never know. One or bad two decisions are make, and they could destroy all this progress in a way. So we'll see. We just have to wait and see. So many people ask, why Poland? Why did you move to Poland? And why did you move out of Canada? So that's a very good question. Since the end of the Cold War, we've had an international world order. It's been now, what, 35 years almost? I have a feeling it's changing. And what we knew as, best places to live, second world or third world, we could see some shifts happening. And there's going to be some countries who are losers and some countries who are winners. I see Poland as one of the winners. I see Poland as a place that is going up. Its trajectory is up, not down, unlike some other countries, mostly in the Anglosphere. It's very safe. It is very chill. It has a history. Buildings are beautiful. The architecture is gorgeous. I'm a very aesthetic person, so I really appreciate that. It's calm. It's not dirty. And what I say is that it's not too Eastern and it's not too Western. And that's perfect. It has the Western benefits of things working in majority of cases. You don't have to worry about a random intruder coming to your house and saying, "Hey, I'm taking over your flat," or your rent was fake. La la la. Things work. There's law and order. Put it this way. But also, it hasn't gone to the complete crazy frenzy of that many Western countries have gone in terms of extremism in both sides, in a way. And it's a pretty normal country. Put it this way. When I was a kid and I was thinking of abroad, like a nice European country back in the 1990s, I had a certain image in my head. 2024, not many countries fit that image anymore, but Poland still does. This is the best way I can describe Poland. And of course, yeah, people are quite good looking. Women, yes, for sure. I cannot judge guys, of course. And there's a lot of walking culture, and these people travel a lot, like crazy. It's now summer, and I feel like every other week they are somewhere else. I don't know who's working here in summertime, but every week I see on Instagram, they're in Italy. Then they work for 1 week. Then they're in Spain. Then they work for 1 week. Then they're in Hungary. It's crazy. Sometimes I'm really, really envious of this lifestyle. Gotta adapt. Overall, throughout the show, I don't want to drag this first episode. We will have Polish nationals and native Polish people on the show, from dentists to business people to salespeople, and we'll talk about them and their country. So the topic of Poland is not closed for Brzydka Prawda, which is in Polish actually means the ugly truth. But today, I just wanted to start this podcast by giving you a bit of background about Poland and why Poland is appealing and why I'm very bullish about its future. So I hope you enjoyed that very brief first episode. I just wanted to know that this exists. This podcast is on, baby. And I look forward to see you next week with our second episode, which will have a guest coming actually from a different city in Poland here. And we'll talk about a very spicy topic, what women want. So until then, take care of yourself and happy Brzydka Prawda.